everyone. Today is December 12th, 2023. We are back here to serve you. My name is Senna, aka Alinko. Today is Tuesday, of course. And as you have been accustomed or used to, we wanna try to make sure that every Tuesday we're here to be able to bring these conversations, these very pertinent conversations to you all. My name is Senna. This is the Progressive Mind Show. Here is where we talk about pertinent conversations to build our communities. And today we will be engaging in one of the very, very sensitive, critical, important, all the adjectives discussion here, which is the war in Gaza. And we have cornered, will Gaza know peace? This is a long-standing conversation that has been going on, of course, globally, but there is also there's a particular organization or institution here in Chicago that has been working on the relationship between America and Israel for a long time, as the Shiloh Institute. The Shiloh Institute headed and founded by Christina King. She will be joining us to be joining us in this conversation to make the connection regarding why we're having this dialogue today and the way forward. How is the Black church and the Black community reacting and responding to this war? A much needed conversation. And so this evening we have four gentlemen, and Christina will join us later. So great conversation to be expected. If you're watching us on Facebook, we encourage you to share the link so that your friends and our friends can be part of this very crucial discussion. I'll go straight to my guests, and they are in the person of Pastor Brondon Mathis. He's the director of Hope for the Nations missions. Let me see. I can see it here. International Hopes for Missions. International. Hope
Bless you guys.
for the Nations Missions International. He's also a motivational speaker, an author, and a great community person. Thank you so much for being on the show, Pastor Brondon Mathis.
Thank you for having me, Senna. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. And then next to him is Wasfi Tolimat. Wasfi, correct me if I'm getting the name wrong, but Wasfi Tolimat is also the CEO. He owns a couple of companies here in the city of Chicago, but he is the president and owner of Captain Coolers and also the Chicago Fight Foundation. He's working on that in addition to a couple of organizations. Wasfi, thank you so much for joining the show. Wasfi, can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you for the show.
Okay. You have to get closer to your screen, Wasfi. We can barely hear you. But while we're getting Wasfi to get closer, we have here also Prince Asiel, all the way from Ashkelon, Israel. Prince Asiel bin Yehuda is a community leader all the way in the Jewish community. He's a Black Jewish, and will be giving his perspective on the war in Gaza and its spiritual implications. So we are very grateful for your time here this evening. We'll go straight into it. So the bigger question that we had on for this evening is, will Gaza know peace? Now, I'd like you all to take a minute to respond to this question. Let's start with Pastor Brondon. Would peace ever come to Gaza?
So, it's a loaded question, but the simplistic answer is when Israel knows peace, Gaza will know peace. However, the actual complexity of peace in Gaza has several different, facets. And I believe one of the facets deals with the approach to the Palestinian Hamas desire for peace and how that peace will actually look, which will include Israel as a nation. In many charters with Hamas, the agency or the leader of the Palestinian region, they have in their charter the actual extinction of Israel as their goal. And so that makes peace more complex when that is the goal of that particular organization that's heading up the Palestinian cause in Gaza. And so it's a complex, actual question, but those are things that I think have its basis in either whatever facet you're going to see it from. If you're going to see it from the side of Israel, Hamas, Gaza, Palestinians, and then there's the side of the Word of God. And so, but I'll leave it at that.
Okay, we'll come back to it. Wasfi, are you able to respond to this? I know it's a very loaded question, but do you think?
But you spell my name over there.
Can you hear us, Wasfi?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I hear you,
brother. It's getting very difficult to hear you, Wasfi. Can you hear us?
I hear you clear.
Okay. So while we try to get him, let me know if you can hear us, Wasfi, because we can barely hear you.
I hear you.
Let me try this again.
Yeah, I hear you.
Do you think that Gaza will ever know peace? Okay, in your own estimation, having a very good experience in that area. First of all, which part of the Middle East do you come from, or have you lived, or have a lot of experience in?
I come all over Middle East.
Okay, while we get him to respond to that. Okay.
My family.
Can you say that? Can you come closer a little bit?
Okay, my family from 1,000 years ago, they are from Mosul, Iraq, and they went to Syria. And my father went to Jerusalem. He married my mom from Jerusalem, and I have Syrian birth certificate. I have Jordanian passport, and I am in America for 45 years.
Beautiful, Wasfi. Do you having with this type of experience? Okay, great. With this type of experience, do you think that Gaza would one day know peace, like permanent peace?
Well, I wish, and God hope one day they're gonna be peace. If those crazy people that don't blow the atomic bomb and finish from everybody. You know, it's ridiculous what you see over there.
So you hope?
Yes, I hope gonna be peace. And our term.
Okay. Thank you. In your time, you hope there will be peace. Prince.
Yes, it's the problem is it's
hold on, Prince. Prince Asiel, can you hear us?
I can hear you very clearly.
Okay, looks like yes. I'm the same question to you. Hold on, Wasfi. I'll come back to you. Firstly, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, your background, and how long you've lived in Israel?
Okay, first of all, I actually live in a city called Netivot. Netivot is bordering Gaza, and it's about 25 minutes south of Ashkelon. So I am the CEO of a nonprofit called Building the Way, dedicated for the purpose of the preservation and cultivation of African American Jews here in the land of Israel. I first arrived in Israel in 1978. So I've been here for a pretty good period of time and pretty much understand some of the dynamics of the situation here. Relative to your question, however, I would tend to believe that there's some issues that would define whether or not there would be peace in Gaza relative to how those in Gaza have a desire for peace. We're here because of what happened in October the 7th, but it didn't just begin there. If we go back to 2005, you may recall the images on the news of Israelis being drugged out of Gaza and all of Gaza turned over to the Palestinians. There was not an Israeli living there after that point. Gaza had an airport. Gaza had a shipping port. Gaza had their own self-governance. Gaza was given weapons to protect the security of policing that region, and Israel absolutely had no control over Gaza at all. There was a conflict there in the leadership. Hamas came into power. The Palestinian Authority was somewhat pushed out. Not long after that, instead of taking advantage of the autonomy that they had, their decision, as we see it, coerced, we believe, by Iran, they decided that they wanted something different. I don't know what else they could have received. They had total control of Gaza. They had entry into Egypt through the Rafah border. They had entry into the country of Israel through the other border, and they had access. And we were used to seeing Palestinians coming in and out of Gaza frequently, every day to be exact. And so the question of peace in Gaza is best asked by those that reside in Gaza. Do you really want peace or not? Now, war is very ugly. I've heard it said that war is hell. And I was there in Ashkelon, closing out the holy day of Sukkot, getting to Simchat Torah, the last day. It happened on what we call Friday, which would have been a double Shabbat. A Shabbat that is a normal weekly Shabbat, and a Shabbat because of the closing out of the Kaaba. Somewhere in that evening, there was a barrage of missiles fired out of Gaza. Now, we've been accustomed to this in times past, as I said, since 2005. Shortly afterwards, after they decided to change directions, then we began to have this problem, missiles being fired out of Gaza. But that particular night was unusual. We've seen these kind of skirmishes back and forth for years. Our prayers have always been that there be a cessation of this conflict. But in order to have that, you'd have to have two willing partners. A barrage like I've never seen before. When you're talking about 20, 30 missiles at one time, every few minutes, all night long. When you're talking about no electricity, because we lost that early, no water, and no way, as you know, your batteries begin to run out. So you're on the cell phone trying to figure out what in the world is going on. And you're also living in unprotected areas. I'm one of those that had to evacuate that region. I actually left my home early that day in order to join with other of our people in Ashkelon to deal with the holy day. I only brought the clothes that I had on my back and a change of clothes for the next day. And so you can imagine that a day or so after that, things have gotten so worse that people sometimes don't understand that we also are displaced by this conflict. Ashkelon is a robust city, numbering at least 150,000 residents. Yet, days later, you only had 20,000 residents left in the city. So you can imagine the evacuation and displacement on that side of the border has also been horrific for everyone. And I think that sometimes people don't understand how Israelis also have suffered from this conflict. It's a terrible thing to awaken or be awakened by over 1,000 militants, for lack of a better term, that have gotten access into your
no, thanks.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Asiel, Prince Asiel, I think that you've made a lot of great points, and we, time permitting, we would definitely want to dive deeper into some of the things that you have shared with us this evening. But I want to get another perspective from Wasfi, and I'll come to Pastor Brondon in a second. Wasfi, can you still hear us?
Yes. Yes, I'm with you.
Okay. The United States has been accused of, supporting their friend in the Middle East, which is Israel. But there has been a lot of protests going on, accusing the U.S. of aiding genocide in Palestine. Or the situation just being a racist situation, and not necessarily a matter of Israel defending itself. Can you respond to that?
Yes, I think I could do. It's America support Israel from 75 years, not from today. Okay, America supports Zionism for taking our home in the middle of the night with no authorization. Those guys, they are criminal. They attacking innocent people. One bomb, they destroy the whole city block. Those from Gaza, they fire firecracker. It's not real bomb. I hope there will be no bomb from the one nuclear and kill everybody in war or on the whole Middle East. From Iran or from America or from Israel or from Russia or from China or from Korea, all of them motherfucker. And I don't like it.
Wasfi, before we started this show, we had a conversation, right? I would encourage that you make your points, and not necessarily.
I make my point because I am upset what I see on the TV. And
yes, I know, Wasfi.
Yes.
Wapsi.
Yes.
Like I said, yes, I understand. I respect your point. I respect the emotions. Again, we had a conversation, so please let's stay away from make your point, and let's have a discussion on this matter. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Wait. Do we agree? Okay. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. What does the Quran say about? Is there anything in the Quran speaking to the spiritual implication of this war?
Don't kill innocent people, which is
Sorry?
the Quran. They say don't kill innocent people or kids or some elderly or some woman, okay, or anybody, enemies. You know, even your enemies, you cannot kill them. It's against our religion. You know,
Right.
we are
Okay.
from Adam and Eve. We are
Okay.
Muslim, Christian, Jewish, believe in cows, believe in sun, believe in you know, whatever religion you get. It's only from Adam and Eve we should live together on this planet and protect each other from any disease, any you know, something happening from God.
Okay.
You know,
All
we
right.
should live
Okay.
alone together.
That's what the Quran says.
Yes.
Do you believe that Israel was attacked and that is also wrong? Israel was attacked by Hamas, and that could the Quran also speaks against that. Do you believe that?
I believe that. I
Okay,
believe they
great.
don't attack innocent people and, you know, in the houses and stuff. This is 100%. But
Okay,
what?
great.
But what?
Okay, great. So, Wasi, having said that, can you? I'd like you to apologize to our audience for using vulgar words, and I would like you to retract that if you can.
Sorry about what I say, but sometimes I get angry and mad
Emotional.
because what
I
I
understand.
see.
I understand. All right. Thank you. Thanks for apologizing. And to our audience, we really want to apologize. That was unfortunate, but sorry, not but. That was unfortunate. We want to acknowledge that. We want to also encourage everyone to engage in this conversation. We understand that this is about humanity. This is about lives, and there are emotions involved. And so we definitely want to encourage all of us to look at this from the perspectives that we want to share today. What are the spiritual implications? What are, of course, the humanitarian issues? We can talk about them, and how the Shiloh conversation is very, very critical in these times. And very soon we're going to have Christina King take us deeper into why we should be having that Shiloh conversation, right, by the Shiloh Institute. And that's very, very important. This is why we are here today. So, Pastor Kanayo Odeluga just joined us. Pastor, you're welcome to the show again.
Thank you.
I know you got tied up by traffic. Thank you. Right, great. We were talking. We've been having the discussion on will there be peace in Gaza? The Shiloh conversation, and we've heard from Prince Asiel Yahuda, who's all the way in Ashkelon. He's a Black Jew. Pastor Brondon is also here. Pastor Brondon, I don't know if you wanted to respond to something that Prince said earlier, or my brother Wasfi just said.
Yeah, I would like to. So the assertion that Israel is a apartheid state, the assertion that Israel is an oppressor state, the assertion that Palestine was ever a state is a false narrative. Before Israel was actually given the partition that Israel received in 1947, 48, the region was under the British out of a treaty called the Treaty of Sèvres in 1920, and the League of Nations had given the control of Palestine to the British government under a British mandate. And so there was no state or nation of Palestine before Israel became a state. And then before the British mandate, Palestine was under the control of the Ottoman Turk Empire. And so in recent history, there was never a Palestinian state. And when Israel was given the partition that they were given in 1947, 1948, Palestine was also given the opportunity to have their own region and create their own state at the same time. And in fact, the Palestinians have been offered an opportunity to have a Palestinian state at least 6 times since before and after the formation of the Jewish state of Israel. And so they were offered a state in 1936 in the Peel Commission. They rejected it. They were offered a state in 1947 with the UN partition. They rejected it. They was offered a state in 1967 after Israel conquered Judea and Samaria and the West Bank. They rejected it. They were offered a state in 2000 with Yasser Arafat. They rejected it. They were offered a state under Ehud Olmert, the prime minister of Israel in 2008, and they rejected it. Finally, Israel unilaterally withdrew from Gaza in 2005, and they did not create a state at that moment. In fact, Hamas stole the highest rate per capita international foreign aid, larger than the Marshall Plan, larger than any amounts of monies that have been given to a formation of a nation. And they stole it from the Palestinian children, did not build schools for them, did not build hospitals. They took all the money to buy bombs and to build a network of tunnels, which is larger than the New York subway system. And so this ongoing Palestinian conflict, this ongoing Israeli-Palestinian conflict has happened as a result of the Palestinian Authority refusing to acknowledge Israel as a nation and refusing to establish their own nation state when the opportunities have been presented them. And finally, Israel is not responsible for taking the land. It was given to them in 1947.
Okay, thanks for your point. Really appreciate it. Like Pastor Kanayo just joined us. Please go ahead, introduce yourself briefly to our audience. And I don't know if you want to respond to the question I asked earlier. If not, I have a question for you. But the question that I asked all my panelists this evening is: will there be peace in Gaza? Do you, in our lifetime, maybe the next generation, would you think that you foresee peace ever coming to Gaza? Pastor Kanayo.
Yeah, that is the eternal hope. That is the eternal hope. And that is the prayer that even Jesus himself, who is a Jew, talked deeply about on his way to the cross. As he came into Jerusalem, he wept over the city. He wept over the land. And he spoke that it has been a while that he has tried, God has tried to bring the people under his wing as a hen brings his chick. But they have rejected the thing that makes for their peace. And that's exactly what he said. So yes, peace will come. And that peace will depend on the actions of people. And I think we can go through all history and talk about why the conflict and who is wrong, who is right. But the bottom line is the prayer for peace. You know, because the Palestinian people are suffering. The Israelis are suffering.
Yeah.
These are actions of governments, and we have to separate the governments from the people, because I don't think there was a huge consultation among the Jews. There's no consensus among the inhabitants of Israel to do what we see today on our television. Neither do I think that the people in Palestine, the mothers and the grandmothers and the children gathered and said, go kill these Israelis. No. So we have to separate those. You see, why I say that is traumatic to the world to see what's happening, especially, you know, in this social media day.
Yeah.
And so, yes, peace can come, and it will take peacemakers to bring peace.
Yeah.
I would like to chime in on that if I
Thanks for your
could.
response. Now, Prince, I'll come to you, Prince. Yes, quickly, Prince.
You know, I'm looking here, and obviously I'm seeing Christians, Muslims, and Jews on this program tonight. Now, actually, it's around 3 o'clock in the morning here. It's actually 2:30 or almost, 20 minutes to 3. So, give me I'm trying to stay up with you young men here.
Thank
But
you
I would
for
like to say
joining.
this. Each of these religions claim Abraham as the father of their faith. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. We had an effort launched, and it doesn't matter by whom, an effort to say that the sons of Abraham, I'm talking about Islam, I'm talking about Judaism, I'm talking about Christianity. We've heard this written, to whom much is given, much is expected. The world did not know the God of Abraham in the ancient days. This knowledge and this wisdom of the fact that there is a God, He is sovereign, and from time to time He intervenes in the affairs of mankind. If you want to speak of peace, and we ought to be speaking of it, how would it come about? We hear men speaking about it's time for us to have peace. Well, if the three major religions that have been given all of this wisdom, all of this knowledge, all of this understanding about God, about humanity, and the relationship between humanity and God. The purpose of religion is it not to bring better character and develop better character, that a person can be seen as pious and upright? How is it that the three major religions that have Abraham as their father are now the source of the kind of conflict in the world that by the choosing of sides by either or has put us in a position where now we hear men speaking cavalierly about a widening of this conflict, about nations becoming more involved in this conflict? As you know, Israel is fighting on more than one border. We hear the cheering and the cries coming from all over. Who does not see this as something that needs to cease? I beg to differ about the firecracker comment that my brother made. They're a little bigger than firecrackers, and they do far more damage than firecrackers. I do believe that you're correct when you say that Israel, let me finish, that Israel's weapons are a little stronger. You kicked on the door of a giant. What did you expect them to do once they opened that door? When you realize that even Israel could have awakened with fear of what tomorrow will bring on October the 7th and 8th and 9th. So when they have that level of fear, because you could have lost the whole Southern Command, had they not been diverted to that rave party, they had done a pretty successful assault. And Israelis woke up with their children, their sons, their daughters, their mothers, their fathers, all having been affected by this invasion of these forces that came in suddenly. Had they not diverted their attention to the 250-some people, let me finish this last statement, that died, they would have gotten the Southern Command. When you think that Israel was not going to react harshly, they too fear. They fear war like anyone else. The way out of this war is for the good men that say that they believe in Allah, they believe in Jesus, they believe in Moses, to come together and show that your religion has developed you to a person of peace and be the louder voices in the world. You can't continue down this path. It's madness. the war that nations now can be drawn into can escalate to nuclear. Where is there a victory in a nuclear conflict? There could be none. This is the time for everyone to beat their plows or their swords into pruning hooks. It is time for the louder voices of peace to begin to emanate.
Thank you. Absolutely. Great points, and I really appreciate it. Christina would be joining us very soon to connect all of this to the convention or also the meeting that is coming. To the point that you just made, Prince Asiel, very, very important, which is why we're having this conversation this evening, and which is why we're going to have Christina King come in, because all of this is towards the idea that Christians, Muslims, Jewish people, people of faith can come together and engage in finding solutions to the people that are suffering as a result of this war. And so thank you so much for sharing. Apostle Kanayo, I know you have a short time with us, but
yes,
Africans, I'm an African. I'm Ghanaian, I'm African. We grew up, with the God of Israel. How is this war? Because if you talk to some Ghanaians or some Africans, I actually was talking to a Cameroonian 2 days ago, and they were like, "Look, when we have issues in Africa, we never hear that Israel coming to our aid or Palestinians coming to our aid. These guys never do anything for Africans. Why do we care about their war?" And this is a Christian, and so I asked her, "You pray to the God of Israel, don't you?" She said yes, and Israel is at war. There's war in Gaza. I mean, don't you think that there's something that Christians have to engage in? Don't you think that Christians have to pay attention to? How does this war connect to Africans, especially, or African Christians?
not just African Christians. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So, Israel has been deeply involved historically, culturally, politically, economically with Africa from the beginning of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Okay.
So for us Africans, these are our children. If you remember,
how have they been involved with us? How have they been involved with us?
No, Abraham that Prince mentioned about took refuge several times in Egypt.
Yeah.
Later, his descendants were enslaved in Africa, in Egypt. And that was where the nation of Israel was incubated.
Yeah.
They went in at 70 in number, the house of Jacob, and then came out a nation that the Lord took to the promised land that he promised Abraham. And that is this real estate that is in contention. Now, all through history, that interaction has continued.
Yeah.
So Africa cannot say it's not involved. And I can tell you, at the founding of modern Jewish state of Israel, Golda Meir was the foreign minister with Ben Gurion as the president. It was a strategic choice by Israel to pursue relationship with the nations of Africa. They wanted friends, and they came back historically to the people that they have always been part of, because they are Jews in Africa, all over Africa, from North Africa all the way to South Africa. There are Jewish communities all over Africa. Now, on a personal note, I can tell you, as an African, I have sympathy for Israel. Why? Because in 1966 to 1970, the nation of Nigeria, under the government of Gowon, began to slaughter Igbo people, my people, all over Nigeria, northern part of Nigeria. And that eventually led to a very brutal war, which many of us consider a genocide. From 1967 to 1970, I was a child and we were blockaded. So I feel some of what the children and the parents and the fathers feel in Gaza, because this was the way we were bombed. But what also was significant is that the people who were attacking us did not believe in our right to exist. And that is what the problem is with the government of Hamas.
Yeah.
Secondly, who were some of the people that came to our aid? The world was silent in a large way. Most of the nations, we didn't even have any conversation in the United Nations asking for a ceasefire. It was the American Jewish Council. It was Jewish organizations that raised money and spoke up on our behalf. And I remember there was a family. My dad had worked in their camp as a student here in Pennsylvania, in New York. The Schumans, they sent us $100 at the end of the war that made a huge difference for my family. So in terms of empathy, compassion, speaking up for the underprivileged, Israel has that heart. The civil rights movement would not have been successful if were not for a lot of rabbis and the Jewish community that came behind Martin Luther King. Let's be clear. What we do not like, and that to me is our African sensibilities. Suffering is something that is painful for us. So as we look at Gaza, as we look at Jerusalem, Israel, there's suffering all over the place. And the only thing we can say is, please stop. Please stop. I agree with Prince. We got to find peacemakers. This is not about who is going to beat up who most. It's about let the suffering stop. And let's find ways to resolve this.
Thank you so much.
And there's been great movement in terms of resolution.
Thank you.
Yes. So Africans cannot say, oh, it's not my territory. Oh, no. Israel has been generous in many ways. Most of the agricultural projects, some of the irrigation projects, some of the technology projects, a lot of things that are making a difference in the life of Africans are coming out of Jerusalem.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Apostle Kanayo, for sharing. I know Pastor Brondon wanted to chime in. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, it does my heart so good to hear the pastor rehearse the history and the alliance that Israel and Africa have had all the way back. And oftentimes that is not understood or even embraced, that there would be no Israel without the continent of Africa. But furthermore, when we talk about the situation in Gaza, there's a scripture in the book of Acts, the 26th verse of chapter 8, and it says, "And the angel of the Lord spake unto Philip, saying, Arise and go towards the south unto the way that goes down from Jerusalem unto Gaza, which is desert. And he arose and went, and behold, a man of Ethiopia, a eunuch of great authority under Candace, queen of the Ethiopians, who had charge of all her treasure and had come to Jerusalem to worship." And we know the story of the Ethiopian eunuch. He basically came to faith in Yeshua, the God of Israel, as a result of Philip being able to witness to him in the region of Gaza. And so for your question concerning the tie, the connection, what Africa, what African Americans, what we have to do with this conflict, where we are in this conflict, it goes all the way back to the pastor, what he said concerning Israel. Israel has always been dependent upon Africa in times of crisis to come out of the crisis and to become all that she is called to become. And in this situation, I believe because of our birthing even into the faith of biblical Judaism through Yeshua, that we are tasked with the responsibility, as one of the gentlemen on here said, to come up with the wisdom of God as African diaspora, African people. We are tasked again at the end of the age to come up with the wisdom of God concerning peace in this situation, because the peacemaker lives in us, and it was initiated, it was begun in the region of Gaza, according to Acts 8:26. And so I believe there is wisdom to come from Africa concerning this conflict in Gaza, the conflict in Israel, and the peace that's coming from the Messiah of Israel in the days to come.
Mm.
May I correct one misnomer?
Thank you, Pastor Brondon, for sharing. Yeah, before that, Wasfi, do you want to comment on something? Hold on one second. Wasfi, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, I hear you. I want to comment.
Wasfi, do you have a comment? Okay, do you want to respond to anything?
Yes, I want to respond to Brother Asiel about what caused the situation, why we are at this point right now fighting each other. In 1936, my grandfather, he told me, he used to be a house next to them, some Jewish family in it. Within 2 months, it was 50 people living in it, 100 people living in it, and after they come in, and my grandfather and my grandmother and the whole town with guns and knives and taking them houses and kicking out and fight. And what you think if somebody come into your house and tell him this is the promised land, get out from the house, this belongs to me. Who give you the right to come and steal in my house? Come and kidnap, kill us with the guns and night time. With which law they tell you come and take somebody's house or somebody's land or cut his tree? And I want to ask Brother Asiel, where he born? Which country he born? From where he comes? The problem.
Okay, so you want to ask Brother Asiel?
I would be delighted to answer that question.
Okay.
First and foremost, let me make it clear.
Okay, he wants to respond to that.
I heard the question. Let me respond. Now, let me respond this way. We see Israel a little different than others. We see it a part of the continent of Africa before the Suez Canal. So we believe that we call Israel Northeastern Africa. Now, if we want to speak about displaced people, why am I here? Doesn't matter where I came from. I'm here, and I've been here since 1978. Mm. The issue should be, if you allow me to complete my statement, as we talk about displaced people, We believe that we are also the descendants of the biblical Israelites. We have enough documented proof, if the world wants to listen, to be able to vindicate that statement. If that is all, if that is true at all, then that means that we've been displaced too. Since 70 AD, we know the assault on the state of Israel. We know what Rome did. We know what has happened in the burning of the temple. We know how things ended with the life of shortly after Yahushua. And we know that the country itself had seen such tragedy and destruction. Many of its people murdered, many of them taken into captivity, and others dispersed. So when you speak about a dispersed people, if my claim is true, and we know it to be true, then we may represent the largest displaced group of people on the planet Earth, the so-called African American, that you're wondering now why history seemingly in school only goes as far as our American experience. What about the antiquity of our people? Mm-hmm. Where did we come from? Mm-hmm. How did we get in America? What transpired during that period of time? Mm-hmm. And I would say this to my brothers and sisters that happen to reside yet in America, that as they try to make sense of this, and you can't make sense of this conflict, you can't necessarily allow yourself to get caught up in the fervor of protest. I would remind you that I'm an African man. What about Darfur? Mm-hmm. There's 10,000 Sudanese is being killed now. What about Ethiopia? Between 600,000 and 800,000 as of 2022 have lost their lives, and that war is still ensuing. What about that new nation of South Sudan that have lost over 400,000? What about Syria? That in 2021, we tallied the number of over 600,000 murdered or lost their lives in Syria, and even being some of them gassed. Remember that red line they shouldn't have crossed? What about Yemen, who now believe that the Houthi should now fire missiles into Israel proper? Your civil war is still occurring. 377,000 have lost their lives, and you got time to shoot missiles here? Mexico, the drug war, 400,000 have lost their lives since June, the tally of 2021. Boko Haram, that we cried buku tears when we heard about the children and the young girls that were kidnapped. What about that war that they brought to the continent? 368,000 have lost their lives.
That's right.
What about in Haiti right now with gangs that's roaming around, and we have 3,700 have lost their lives since August? What about the Democratic Republic of Congo between 1996 and 1997? 6 million have died. Where are those tears? Why do I not hear the same kind of fervor about Palestinians as why don't I hear the same kind of concern about all of these lives that have been lost? There's only one direction. Question as to where I came from does not really matter. I'm here, and I've been here for a considerable period of time, and my ancestors originated from here. But let me conclude my statement by this. Because I'm hearing certain names come up. I was born an African Methodist Episcopal. Allow me to finish, my brother, and you can have the platform to say what you want to. I was born, let me complete my statement. I was born in America. The religion that I met when I opened my eyes was African Methodist Episcopal. Had I not been a Christian, I could have never become a Hebrew Israelite. Had I not become a Hebrew Israelite, I would have never become an Orthodox Jew on top of that. So when one brings up certain topics, you're preaching to the choir. I understand the hurt and the pain on both sides. I truly do. And I cannot side with either side. I believe it's time again for those people that have matured and evolved in God to become the loudest voices in the room. You did say it, Pastor. Blessed are the peacemakers, because they shall be called the sons and daughters of God. I did not come here to defend any position other than the position of the Almighty. It is time for cessation of war. It is madness.
Okay.
Mutually assured destruction is what you get out of that.
Prince, thank you so much. You made your point, and I really appreciate it. It's 2 minutes past 7 p.m. I'm getting some feedback. I'm not sure where it's coming from. Please, okay, thank you so much. It's 7 p.m. You're still watching it's 7 p.m. Central Time. You're still watching the Progressive Man Show. I'm sorry. Please bear with me. We need to take care of this background. Okay. This looks like we're in good shape now. It's 3 minutes past 7 p.m. here in Chicago. This is the Progressive Mind Show. We're here every Tuesday and Sundays from 4 to 6 p.m., bringing you these important conversations, particularly on Tuesdays. We are here from 6 to 8 p.m. To engage all of us as we build our communities through this important dialogues. Okay, so when we come back, we want to take a short break. When we come back, we will be bringing in Christina King, and one of our guests needs to take leave. Thank you so much, Apostle Kanayo. Before we go on break, if you're still here, Apostle Kanayo, because you're about to leave, we would like you to give us your last words, your final remarks, and then we can take our break, come back, and then bring Christina in. Apostle Kanayo, if you're here, you may want to give us your closing remarks. Okay. Looks like he had to go. He's also, apart from being an apostle, he's also a medical doctor, and has a lot of schedules, has a lot of appointments throughout the week. And so we really appreciate him for joining us to have this conversation. We want to take this short break. When we come back, as I said earlier, we will be bringing in Christina King to connect all of this to the Charlotte conversation that is coming up, and she'll be telling us more about it. We encourage you to share the feed if you're watching us on Facebook, and if you're on YouTube, you can tell a friend to check the show out, follow the conversation, subscribe, and of course share the link so that we can be part of this very critical conversation. We shall be right back after this short break. This is your host, Sana, aka Alinko. Welcome back to the show. This is the Progressive Minds. If you were watching earlier, we have been talking about the war in Gaza with the subject or with the topic. Would there be peace in Gaza? It's almost seems like, and if you've been following geopolitics for a long time, it almost seems like it might not. It might almost seem impossible to have peace in that part of the world. But how significant is this war? What's the spiritual implication of the war in Gaza? We will be delving into that after we get Christina King to give us her piece and connecting the dots for us. For now, we will also want to inform you that we have been open for some time now. If you need graphic work in terms of websites, apps, brochures, business cards, all kinds of flyers, reach out to us. We will give you quality work, high quality work at very good prices. Definitely want to be able to serve our community with some of our services. So please reach out to us for all your media work in terms of graphics, websites, apps, business cards, and so forth. The number to reach out to is 815-409-9123, or you can reach out to the Progressive Mind Show on all our social media platforms, including Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, but preferably it should be Instagram or Facebook if you want to reach us directly via social media. Of course, directly call us at 815-409-9123 or send us an email at info.progressiveminds@gmail.com. We'll go straight to our guest this evening. Let me bring Christina King into the fold to connect the dots for us. Before that, Wasfi, I know you wanted to respond before we went on break. Can you please go ahead, respond quickly because of time, and then we can go to Christina.
Something, there will be no peace. And Middle East, as long the Israeli control Jerusalem and they don't let all the Muslim people to go to Jerusalem to visit the Holy Land from 1967, no one could. They go to Hajj every year. 3-4 million people, they go to Hajj. To complete that course, they have to go to the last thing to Jerusalem, what they call it Al-Quds, Iqaddisha. And all these Muslim people, they go since 1967 till today, nobody allowed to go to Jerusalem. And this is against the religion, against the Muslim religion, and against the Christian religion. No Christian Arab going to Bethlehem or to Jerusalem, and this is not right. And I want to tell the brother Asiel, if you could show this and hear it here.
Wasfi, can you tell us the content of this video?
Some lady, they coming from New York, this guy, and he's stealing
Hello?
her house. Hot settlers coming like how they come in 1936 and my grandfather, and they've been doing it for 75 years. And this is not right. This is a criminal. Stealing somebody's land or stealing somebody's house. In Africa or in America or in China or in Jerusalem or in Ukraine or anywhere else. We are brother and sister. We have to live together. We have to be Muslim, Christian, believe in what you believe. Jerusalem, there have to be international peacekeeper to hold the city, to control it, and put international peacekeeper to search everybody. You want to go to pray in Jerusalem? Go pray. Jews, you want to go pray? Go pray. Christian, you want to go pray? Go pray. They're going to be number one country in the whole is not right. This is a
Yeah.
criminal. Sit
Thank you.
down same with all the religions.
Okay.
You,
Thank
you
you for
don't like.
thank you for making your point, Wafsi. I have a follow-up question for you with regards to Hamas. But before you come in, Christina, welcome to the show. How are you today? I know you've been listening quietly. Um, Thank you so much for making the show this evening. How are you today?
Thank you so much, Sana. We appreciate your work and appreciate you engaging in this conversation. So I'm well and pleased to hear the conversation happening.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you for joining us. Uh, how long have you been working with? Have you been working in the capacity of um, advancing and promoting the relationship between America and Israel?
Yeah, so for probably about the last 15 going on 20 years, I've been working with the Black and Jewish community as well as the African American community
Mm,
and Israel, both
mm.
from a political perspective as well as a faith perspective. Um, and recently, that journey took me on a turn to begin to learn more about Africa and about the connection between Israel, Africa, and the diaspora or Black America specifically. And so, after many years
Mm.
of working for many Jewish organizations, um, I'm I have been putting together and working to launch the Shiloh Institute, which is the connection between Israel, Africa, and the diaspora or Black America. And the
Awesome.
the mission of the Shiloh Institute is the development, the cultivation of ethical global leaders to impact the world for good. And I think, and most specifically, African Americans and the diaspora, because um, the need for these kind of conversations and for leaders in the African American community to engage in foreign policy and in global conversations. The African American community is a young community, is a young people group. And so, as we mature and as we continue to develop in our peoplehood, um, are being engaged in those conversations and bringing, as I heard Pastor Brondon and Prince, um, bringing our experience, bringing our even as Apostle spoke about suffering and other perspective that the African American community has. I believe that they're an integral part of this conversation.
Thank you so much, and and thank you for giving us a brief background about what the Charlotte Institute is. Since the breaking out of this war, you actually proud to it actually, and we've been working together in Chicago and beyond, and so I've been privileged to see your work and how you have built long time relationship, whether be it in the Jewish community, the Black community, and in Africa, and now Africa. It it's very inspiring to see the work you're doing and how you continuously do it, even though it's not one of the easiest job. Even though you have
Mhm.
had to deal with challenges, I've admired your tenacity in these areas. Of course, the reason why you're connected to great men like Pastor Brandon and a host bunch of people, a host of people. Now, what I also want to know about the Shiloh Institute is, um, we have been talking about if the war in Gaza, the spirit. I mean, now we're going to be going to the spiritual implication, but you've also been working on having a conversation, understanding the spiritual connotation behind this war. And you've been working with Pastor Steve Muncy at Christian Family Center in Indiana, trying to get try to get some elders and community leaders to get involved in what conversation, what is the convention or the conversation you're trying to hold, what is the meaning, and why are you intending sorry and what's the significance of this conversation that you're trying to hold?
Yeah, so we're planning a conference called Israel and the Black Church, and we have been working on that for a long time before this conflict, this war between Israel and Hamas happened. But the attention that is brought across the world into the Black community um, has been a place where we said, we want to engage in this difficult conversation. One of the things and one of the main reasons, and Sana, I just want to thank you again for your work and all that I've learned um, from you in engaging the African and African American community. I think that's a crucial relationship, and all that both peoples bring to the table. That it's very significant for the African American community as America is able to, as Americans, is able to influence policy around the world. And I want to help from my experience with some of the most significant policy organizations and to help African Americans to take our rightful place in that policy discussion and to be able to amplify the voices and needs of people of color around the world. And so this conversation is one of those conversations. I believe that part of the reason that we don't hear the African American community speaking in the way that it should be is because it's just very complicated. The nuances are real, and you have to sit down, not with sound bites, but you have to sit down with people who have been studying these issues, people who have been taking the time to help us understand the nuances. And I don't say that because saying that we don't know or we don't understand or we're not educated. It's just that as we enter into these global discussions, that I believe that it's crucial for the African American community and the African diaspora to bring their value system, to bring our voice to these conversations, and to be educated by leaders, experts, our friends, to have true dialogue, not necessarily on Zoom calls and where everyone doesn't want to talk because you think you might be canceled or because of the fear that is that's just in the water right now. To even have this discussion is very unfair. And I believe that we need to bring some of our friends and allies from these communities so that we can have real discussions, ask the questions, and to be able to bring some of the questions that we have to the table to make other people think, because we have a very unique experience. And sometimes people think, okay, both sides, so which side are you on? Because in a time of war, you oftentimes have to choose one side or the other. When I have dealt with members of Congress, that there's sometimes the leadership, they want to know when you're on one side or the other. But what I've also come to learn is with Pan-African and our African value system, that you can have compassion because for both sides when people are suffering, because it's the peacemakers have to have an understanding of both sides in order to bring some understanding to the table. So in all thy getting, get understanding. And I believe that that's part of the role that the African American, that people of African values, we don't have to, Western values have their place, but they are not the only values to be espoused in this world. There are other values that also, and ethics that need to be brought to the table so that we can embrace peace.
Thank you so much for sharing, Christina. And I'd like to one more. I think I have one more question for you. Now, is this gathering going to be in person? Is it going to be virtual? Exactly where is it going to be at? Who are some of the people that you are talking to be part of this conversation at this moment?
Yes, thank you. So my role, I'm good at convening the experts and bringing the right voices to the table, and having many years of experience and maintaining relationships so that we can do that. So this will be at Family Christian Center in the Chicagoland, Northern Indiana area. We have changed the date of the gathering. It was actually supposed to be happening this weekend, but in giving honor to the passing of Dr. Charles Adam, a giant in the Black church, that we have deferred and will be changing the date of that. But we, in honor of his great life, he actually was the person that I was baptized under in Detroit. So we'll be celebrating his life. But we will be bringing this conversation to the Chicago, Northern Indiana area. It will be in person. There will be no Zoom, no streaming, because we just want to be able to have the questions for people to be able to ask the questions that they need to ask.
Yeah, you can take a break. You can grab some water if you need to. But here is what I wanted to show our audience. And if you need to, please go ahead and grab some. But here is the event coming up. It is called Israel and the Black Church. Israel and the Black Church. If you're watching us now, it's Israel and the Black Church, and needed conversation. I think that it's something that needs to be paid attention to. Why not? Because I mean, if you're a Christian, we ascribe and pray to the God of Israel. And so why wouldn't you want to get to know more about the connection there? Now, sometimes vaguely, yeah, we can understand what the connection is, but do we have an in-depth understanding of that connection, the relevance, the impact of it, and even the necessity of knowing that connection? And is it important to talk about building relationship in that space? So Israel and the Black Church, I think, is a very, very crucial conversation, and I would encourage you all to mark this day. I know we are yet to give you the date. Pastor Brondon, I know you've been involved with this. Iwasfi, I'll come to you in a second. It's 24 minutes past 7 p.m. We are still talking about, will there be peace in Israel? Sorry, will there be peace in Gaza? The Shiloh conversation. And you just heard from the founder of Shiloh, the Shiloh Institute, Christina King, sharing about the importance and why she's doing this very significant, why she's putting up this very significant conversation. Wasfi, I'll come to you in a second. But Pastor Brondon, I don't know, you're involved with this event. You want to add your 2 cents, and I'll go back to Christina real quick. I'm sorry. I think I had you muted because I was getting feedback. So that was my apology. That's my fault. Please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to thank Christina for convening this conversation in Chicago at Pastor Steve Muncie's church, and the dialogue that is needed and necessary across the spectrum of the Black thought, and even the Black thought in the Black church concerning Israel and the nations. And so I'm honored to be a part of that when we actually convene this conversation. Excited about the opportunity to have the conversation, because we've got to start talking in dialogue and not monologue. We've got to start talking to one another so that we can speak to the nations with one voice. And so I believe this is going to help. I believe this is going to give us a framework of where we are and help us in our journey towards where God is taking us in the days to come as the Black church. Concerning Israel, which is a vital subject. I believe you're getting ready to get into the spiritual, ramifications of October 7th. Very vital subject as we come to the end of the age, as we come to the days that are coming upon us, for us to have an understanding of God's heart and God's mind concerning Israel.
Thank you. Christina, quickly, do you have a date yet? Are you working on it? Please let us know.
Well, we believe that it will be February 1st and 2nd, Thursday and Friday, uh, 2 o'clock until 9 o'clock on Thursday, and then because people that will be coming from out of town will have a breakfast on Friday morning. So we believe that it will be February 1st and 2nd. But we will get that information out through our friends here at the Progressive Mind Show, and have Stunna give you that information as soon as we know for certain. And again, Stunna, thank you for all that you do.
You're welcome. Tentatively, you're saying February 1st and 2nd. Tentatively, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then you said again the venue is going to be at.
It's at Family Christian Center. It's in the Chicagoland, Northern Indiana area. Pastor Steve Muncie's church there, and we have a wonderful lineup of speakers from the Jewish community, from the African American community, African community, from the Palestinian community, experts and clergy and scholars and from Israel, from the United States. So we're looking forward to having a thorough and open discussion so that we can get some of the questions that we need answered, and won't be paralyzed by just being inundated with information, but not being able to ask the questions, and also bringing some of the trusted friends that we've had for many, many years that we're bringing to have open conversations, to ask. There's many conspiracy theories, lots of propaganda, but people aren't able to wade through all of this information, especially if this is new. Anybody who has done any study of Israel, the one way that you can know whether someone has been truly involved with the conversation in Israel, anyone who says that it's not complicated has no idea what they're talking about. It's very complicated, but is very nuanced, and it takes time and attention, but it is profound to become involved with the world from that part of the world. And it's something that I believe deeply that the African American community and other leaders, we need to be involved on a global level. We are impacting and making decisions on a global level. Our political, the people who we put in office are making decisions on global level. And so we need to be engaged in this conversation and become ethical global leaders to help to impact the world. As Prince said, that the voices of peace need to be amplified. And it can't just be rally calls. It needs to be people of understanding and of knowledge, because it can't just be rally calls. It has to be some understanding.
Okay. Is Pastor Muncie going to be part of this conversation?
Yes, absolutely. So there'll be many different leaders a part of the conversation. Pastor Muncie has been someone deeply involved with Israel, deeply involved with both the Jewish and the Palestinian community, and has a unique perspective, being having a predominantly African American congregation, and very involved in the evangelical movement as well. So we have all the people at the table that we can ask all the kind of questions and the teachings that are swirling around in this conversation. We have the people all coming to the table open-hearted to be able to have real questions, real dialogue, real conversation, and get some questions, some of those questions answered. But also, very importantly, I believe the conversation and some of the questions that the African American community are important for other people to hear and to give answer to.
Brilliant.
Sometimes it's not about the answer. Sometimes it's about asking the right question.
or just being in a place where you can air your view, get your feelings out, and then get your thoughts out so that you can be heard. Sometimes just some people just need to be heard. And I think that's a space you're creating. There will be refreshment, I hear, something like that. The church is providing refreshment, right? Food. I heard the church is providing that. So
yes, there will be.
But if
all of
yeah,
those, all of
yes.
those attributes, all of those attributes of a great conference will be at the. All of those attributes of a great conference. We do things with excellence. Okay.
Hey, Pastor Brondon, Prince Asiel, Wasfi, you can all agree with me. We can't go to this conference and not have some sandwich or something. So all the men are in agreement with me. So I think we're good. But no, but this is a very important conversation. Israel and the Black Church. Israel and the Black Church. I need a conversation put together by the Shiloh Institute. Thank you so much, Christina, for sharing this. It's 33 minutes past 7 p.m. You are still listening to the Progressive Mind Show. Would there be peace in Israel? I keep saying Israel, but would there be peace in Gaza? And we have discussed a little bit about it. Now we want to look at the spiritual implication for a second. We don't have too much time, so we want to go back to our guests, and please help us to make it snappy as much as you can. I'll go back to Pastor Brondon. How is this war? What is the Bible, or what is God saying to the world through this Gaza war, if any at all? Please.
Am I muted?
You're unmuted now.
No, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I believe that this season, we are in a significant season. I was actually in Israel during the attack on Hamas, and I go to Israel every year for the Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot, and I was in Jerusalem for the last day of the feast and the celebration of the feast in Jerusalem in the Wailing Wall area. And I was praying around 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning at the Wailing Wall, preparing for a Zoom call that I was going to be doing, or a live Facebook, Instagram live. I was going to be doing back to the States at the end of the feast here. As Princess shared with us, it's Israel is 7 hours ahead. So when the feast was ending here, like 8, 9, 10 at night, it was 4, 5 in the morning in Israel, and I was planning to do a live, and I did the live from the Wailing Wall area. And what I had received during the time that I was praying at 3, 4, 5 in the morning was Zechariah 14. And I felt directed to speak on this chapter because this chapter is set in the context of the Feast of Tabernacles that will be right before Israel's Messiah returns to the earth. And we see in Zechariah 14 a snapshot of what happened that night. It says in verse 1 of Zechariah 14, "Behold, the day of the Lord comes, and the spoil shall be divided in the midst of thee, for all nations shall gather against Jerusalem to battle, and the city will be taken, and the houses rifled, and the women ravished, and half the city will go forth into captivity, and the residue of the people shall not be cut off from the city. Then the Lord shall go forth and fight against those nations as when he fought in the day of battle. And his feet shall stand in that day upon the Mount of Olives, which is before Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall cleave in the midst thereof toward the east, toward the west. And there shall be a very great valley, and half the mountain shall remove toward the north, half toward the south. And it goes on to talk about that battle that is led by, in verse 7, it's led by the Messiah and his holy ones. The Messiah and his holy ones, he's going to come with his holy ones, and he's going to fight against the enemies that come against Israel. It goes on to say that the Lord shall be king over all the earth in that day. There shall be one Lord, and his name one. It goes on to say that all the nations that are left that came against Jerusalem, well, before it says that, it says men shall dwell in Jerusalem, and it says there will be no more destruction, but Jerusalem shall be safely inhabited. So concerning will there be peace in Gaza, will there be peace in Jerusalem? When the Messiah comes, he's going to bring that peace, and there will be safety in Jerusalem. But it goes on to say that all the nations that came against Jerusalem and survived, those nations, in verse 16, shall come up to Jerusalem once a year to worship the king during the Feast of Tabernacles. And those nations that do not come up to worship the king during the Feast of Tabernacles, there will be no rain on those nations, but there will be the plague that came against the nations that came against Jerusalem. So I was reading that verse an hour before the attack on Israel by Gaza. And as I was reading the verse, I had no idea that there would be an attack on Israel. However, after the attack on Israel, many people from my live began, first of all, contacting me to make sure that I was okay. But second of all, they were like, you called this chapter in connection with what is happening right now, because Israel was attacked during the Feast of Tabernacles, during Sukkot, and Israel now is being charged with injustices for their response, where all the nations are turning against Israel. It's very possible that the end result, or the culmination of this regional war, could end in a world war, where Zechariah 14:2-3 says, all the nations of the earth will come against Jerusalem to battle. And it's in that context that the Messiah will come back to Israel, back to Jerusalem, to fight against the enemies, the nations that come against Israel. And after that victory, all nations will come up once a year during this season, the Feast of Tabernacles, because this will be the season where he defeats the nations that come against Israel. And so my heart is that we began praying for peace from the vantage point of Israel's Messiah coming, saying, Hosanna, blessed is he that comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest, because it's only in the context of the Messiah's coming that there will be ultimate peace.
Because of time, Pastor Brandon.
All right, I'm done.
Pastor Brandon, can you hear me? I know. I thank you so much. I feel the fire. I get it. I think that this was very important for you to share, and thank you so much for sharing. But because of time, so I wanted to get some of our guests to also share their viewpoint on this. Wafsi, I know that whilst he was talking, you were nodding your head, you were responding, you were, reacting to his submission. You want to respond quickly. And again, to my guest, because of time, I encourage that you summarize your thought, your submission, make it concise, so we can get through this on time. So please bear with us.
I'm a little long-winded. I
and help us get
apologize.
through this. No, not just you, not just you. I think all our guests, there is. That's why we bring you here. We bring you on the platform because we know this is your work. You have depth knowledge about the subject matter, so it's okay to share. But we just want to work. We want to make sure that we are managing the time so we can get everything within the time frame. Wasfi, can you please? Do you want to respond to this real quick? What's the significance? What is this war telling us? Is God speaking to the world through this war? Do you see any spiritual implication through this war, Wasfi?
This year with 2023. 111,000 years ago. Why we want to do it now? Whatever religion you believe, whatever God, only one God we got. Everybody believe it. I think you believe it and they believe it. So why from 1,000 years ago we have to come in and tell me this is the situation right now? Menachem Begin, he and no Jerusalem country, what he said and our brother in the beginning. Palestine, state of Palestine, before Israel, they got money, they got post office, they got airport, they got custom. Menachem Begin and Shamir Baris, they got visa to get into Jerusalem, to Palestine. It was country before they come and kidnap it and do, steal it with a big country, America and Britain and France and all those. We are from Adam and Eve, we have to make peace. All of us together, love each other, live together, worry about each other, not kill each other. Don't steal it, my land. I don't want to come into your house and kick you out and tell you this is the promised house. This is not right, guys. We are in the year 2023. Whatever religion you get, leave it alone. You want to go pray. From Iran to what happened in Saudi Arabia, what happened in Yemen, what happened in Yemen. Bullshit. Whatever, when you come from, this is Palestinian people, you get there. Palestinian country, Palestinian money. The big country destroyed to steal the mineral. Now they coming to steal the gas and Gaza. This is what's going on.
Wasfi, do you think? Wasfi, let me ask you a question. Do you think that Hamas? Do you put any blame on Hamas at all for initiating or for attacking the Jewish people, attacking the Israelis, and as a result, Israel, defending itself and all of this happening? Do you think that Hamas? First of all, do you think that they're a legitimate group fighting for the people of Palestine, or do you also agree to the assertion that other people call them terrorists, who are not necessarily in working or fighting for the Palestinian people, but for their own selfish or greed? What's your response to that?
The Palestinian together, all of them see, and each one they do it for himself. But who's the terrorist? The big terrorist, the one they bomb with airplane. The big terrorist, the one killing innocent people and the TV. This is not right. We should live together. That there will be no peace if we don't talk to each other and make Jerusalem capital for the three religions and live together is international peacekeeper. Take care and stop the settler from taking our home and our land. This what happened in Gaza because they take long time to that bomb coming. They live under siege. They don't have no food. They don't have no money. They don't have no internet. They don't have no electric. They don't have no water. This is no good. They cannot handle it for no long. The Palestinian people, they got enough from coming.
Do you hold Hamas? Do you hold Hamas? Do you hold Hamas responsible in anything at all? Yes or no?
I condemn the fight. I don't like it. You know, nobody likes to kill innocent people. But what the reason why they did it? For 75 years, come and taken and building, settlement and building. This is the Palestinian state, city, village. Nobody allowed to go from here to here. But you know, checkpoint from for 3 miles, you have to 6 hours. This is too much. And America helping Israel, give it the food, give it the women, give it the money. They see this, you know, America is our enemy. This is not right. America is a big country on the earth. Everybody, they should be, you know, one hand. They should be fair with everyone. Love each other. Love everybody. The human. You know, Adam and Eve, they don't say kill each other. They make us to love each other. Even the animals, they don't do that.
Right.
You know, Hamas or Israel or anybody, stop that bullshit. Or Iran or Saudi Arabia, everything. They are criminal just stealing them people. All the presidents over there, they are money talk bullshit war.
Okay.
It's not right.
Wafsi, thank you so much for your. No, I appreciate your submission. I always just I think this is about the third time you're using foul words on the show, and I think we've talked about it earlier. Please, again.
I never.
I know.
Let me say one thing.
All right.
I never. You know, I'm sorry about it. I never go to school. I learn everything in the street. I cannot read and write English. Only I see in my eye. I'm sorry about it. This is, you know, sometimes I get mad. This.
Okay.
I'm like
all right. Thank you for
a human being.
No. Absolutely. And I appreciate you, Wafsi. We do appreciate your viewpoints and your passion. And so thank you for elaborating and explaining. I mean, basically apologizing again. And to our audience, thanks for working with us and staying on the show till now. It's 50 minutes past 7 p.m. You're watching the Progressive Mind Show. We are live every Tuesday from 6 to 8 p.m. engaging in these pertinent conversations that bothers all of us. And we encourage you to check our websites, our social media pages, YouTube, like the page, subscribe to it, tell a friend about what we're doing. Go on our Facebook page, like the page, share the conversation so we can together build a strong Black diaspora and also engage in these pertinent dialogue that help to make our society a better place. I asked a question about the spiritual implication of the war. Brondon gave his piece, and then Wafsi, I know Prince Asiel, thank you so much. I know it's 7 hours. It's super late there, but you stayed up to help this dialogue. I really appreciate you. Because of time, if you can briefly, yes, you're welcome. If you can briefly give us your submission regarding the spiritual implication of this war.
It's kind of difficult sometimes to wade into these conversations
Yeah, we can hear
biblically
you.
without being a little long-winded.
Yes.
That's to be understood. It's a very passionate subject that we're dealing with here, and I understand my Muslim brother and the fervor and the pain that he feels. This is tragic, all that we're seeing, and we're still trying to raise the voices of peace and cooperation. But I would like to begin the biblical reality of this. Much of the world refers to this holy manuscript as the Holy Bible. I like to refer to it as the Hebrew Bible. It's a 6,000-year odyssey, beginning with Adam. And as you know, he had descendants. Cain, having murdered his brother, and then continuing on with a curse on him, until one of his relatives, Lamech, makes a statement to his wives. And that is how he was hurt and he was wounded by someone, and he decided that the way to respond to that was to kill him or kill them. And so we have now murder on earth yet again. I'm not one to believe that humanity is only 6,000 years old, but humanity goes much further than that. But this was the development of the kingdom of heaven. And it started with Adam. Now we're dashed back into conflict, and we fast forward this to this period of time. We knew that from the writings of the New Covenant that the end of this age would come with conflict. As they asked Yahushua, what do these things mean? What would be the signs of his coming and his return? Then he goes on to say that there will be wars and rumors of wars. And here we are. They go further on to say that if these days of war and conflict are not shortened, that we hold in jeopardy all of humanity and all of the creation, that there would be no flesh saved. So we want to bring this notion of conflict being resolved through violence to an end on the planet Earth. We know the danger of nuclear conflict to all of humanity, to all of the creation. And the creation has this expectation, is waiting for the sons and daughters of God to rise up and begin to say those things and do those things to bring an end to war. Now, I can't solve the issues of the past, but I will direct this towards the Black church and towards my Islamic brother. We too have suffered as Black Americans, as Black people, tremendously.
Yeah.
They speak of the fear of one that kills the body, not to be as fearful as one that can kill the body and cast the soul down in hell. Our souls have been in hell for way more than 4,000 years. We want to track our history to only 4,000 years. We track our history back 6,000 years. We see what has happened to the earth, and we see what has happened to our people in the last 400 years. We have suffered tremendously. But what I love about the Black church and what I love about Black America is this. When we had the so-called emancipation, we were armed. Yet we chose not to turn our arms against those that had misused and abused us for those 400 years, continually to this day. We did not choose to pick up arms and fight those that had enslaved us. And the enslavement that we experienced was more tragic than anything anyone else in numbers had happened to them on this earth that I know of. Yet our solution was not to get vengeance, but the church stepped in. And I salute and commend the Black church because they have been the caretakers of our souls. And when we had much grievance, they took care of our soul matters and they guided us as best they could humanly. And therefore we have come out of there with our hands not stained with the blood of the Europeans that treated us so poorly. We bring to the table that same state of mind. And we say to the entire world, you can solve your problem without violence. We are prime example. I say to the Black church, continue on to do the things that you have done. You have a reward. However, when I look at Black America and the way that they have, and I must finish this, when I look at Black America and see the way that they have sided in this matter, you've left out one great element here. What is the desire of the Almighty, the creator of the heaven and the earth for humanity? We cannot necessarily solve the problems of the past. And I understand the passion of anyone that have been displaced, that have seen their loved ones murdered. And it's a small country, this country called Israel, about the size of New Jersey. There have been bloodletting here since 1948 with this state. Nevertheless, the issue is, how do you get out of it? How do you turn this around? How do you stop it? Everyone has had someone that they can say was murdered on both sides of this. Everyone has a complaint that is genuine that ought to be heard. But the better question is, how do we extricate ourselves from war and violence? Again, we need all of men of faith to begin to stand up and say and do those things that would turn this around. Or else, I remind you, there can be no flush saved. If you continue down this pattern and this path of solving conflicts, as egregious as they may be, with violence like Cain, and we've come to the end of this age, are we yet still using the violence of the descendants of Cain and Cain himself? Is that how we're going to resolve very difficult and complicated and perplexing issues? I argue, I beg you, and I appeal to the Black church, take your rightful position. You taught me from the time my eyes were open all about the land of Israel. I'm so grateful for the Almighty to have given us a manuscript filled with prophecy and predictions that we can see not only his might and strength and sovereignty, but also as a guide for us to avoid the kind of tragedy that the world seemingly desires to run headlong into. So one little passage, if you would allow me, it'll only take a second.
I would give you
just 1 second.
Yeah, I will give you
a couple of seconds. I just want to say this one thing, this one passage. I'll leave it to you all to define. It's coming out of the Apocrypha, a Greek word that means hidden. And it's coming from the book of Ezra, which is a part of the Bible, but someone selected certain passages of it to extract it. I want to tell you where we're at in this age right now, and it begins with this. In the 15th chapter of the book of Ezra, Ezra 2, it reads on this wise: Behold, a terrible sight appearing from the east. The nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and from the day that they set out, their hissing shall be spread over the earth, so that who hear them shall fear and tremble. It goes much further into the source of this conflict, and we need to begin to understand that this was a sign of the time of the end. The wars and the rumors of war has an origin, and the Most High has given us the understanding of when to see, or when you see certain events take place. He will not share the hour nor the day, but he certainly has shared the season. We're in the season of the dragons of Arabia, deciding to solve their problem with grievance, and the world is entrapped by it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and we appreciate your submission. I know that it's 8 p.m. and a minute past 8 p.m. And we have attempted to handle this very huge global conversation, and I hope that for those who are watching and joined us, you have gotten a thing or two out of this. I have been informed, and I think that in all of this, it seems as though the only thing that people of the world can do at this moment is to pray to God to bring peace to Gaza and the people that are suffering as a result of the war. And with the black church being involved in this, well, let's bring back Christina King to close us. Christina, if you're still watching us, can you please join us as we give the closing remarks? This is the conversation we're talking about: Israel and the Black Church, a needed conversation, organized by the Shiloh Institute, supported by the Christian Family Center, headed by Pastor Steve Muncie. And this is a very crucial one: Israel and the Black Church. As we get our closing remarks from our guest, you can call in. I think that we had I think with time is already passed, but say you want to share your 2 cents regarding this convo, you can feel free to reach us at you can call in at 815-277-5047. Christina is if you were here. Okay, I think we have Christina in here. We would go ahead. Um, a friend of mine is watching from Ghana. He says, "It's so interesting, but I have to sleep. It's 2 a.m. in Ghana. Good morning. Good morning to you, all the way in Ghana." So our conversation is going everywhere. It's touching Africans, and this is what we want to do, right? Bring the awareness of some of these things that we don't usually talk about to the forefront. I hope that we've been able to do so. Again, I'm getting feedback. I'm going to, if I mute you, it's just because of the feedback we're getting. Hopefully, let's see here. Okay, so I see where it's coming from. If you have a fan in your background or something, please turn it off because it's giving us a lot of background, a lot of feedback. Well, we will take our closing remarks. Again, we already passed our time, so when I give you the time to give us a closing remarks, please let's wrap it up in 30 seconds, and so we can all go back to our families and go back to our duties. So we will start with we'll end with Christina King. And so let's start with Prince Asiel. I know it's very late your time, so please give us your closing remarks so we can bring the conversation to an end.
Well, first of all, let me let you know that we can be located here under Building the Way 7 at gmail.com, PayPal. If you want to contribute to our effort. Okay. I came out of America following a very powerful man that believed that it was time for the kingdom of heaven or the kingdom of God to be built on earth. It led us historically into scriptures that we identify ourselves with the descendant of the biblical Israelites. Our purpose for being in the land of Israel is not to displace anyone, but to bring in and usher in a cycle, a dispensation of peace, to make certain that the millennium message is heard, to guide those that seek salvation into an area where they can find safety globally. It is the words that matter. We call this now Word War One. We're not using weapons known by man. We're using our words and our wisdom to convey our message. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Prince. I didn't mean to catch you abruptly, but we have to wrap this up.
I understand.
Thank you. Pastor, yes, sorry. Let's go to Wafsi. Please go ahead. Wasfi, can you please go give us your closing remarks for today, please?
There will be peace, like our brother, what they say, he going to Israel 1978, and I coming to America to be cowboy in 1978. This is my home, and he take my home there. We like to be all over the world, no matter what kind of religion you get, what kind of religion the other one get, everybody, we are brother and sister, live together, guys, and peace. Please, Palestine is gonna be free from everybody. International peacekeeper, five-star hotel, 100 million people. They're gonna be a year just visit the Holy Land and Jerusalem, and come and visit America too. Thank you for
Thank
have
you.
us and your show.
Thank you so. Thank you so much. I have to let you know that WASFI is working and building the Chicago Fight Museum or Chicago Boxing Museum. He has worked with almost all the world boxers that you can think of, all the champions in the United States, from Mike Tyson to Holyfield to all of them, Oscar De La Hoya. He is a veteran when it comes to boxing in this
Can
country.
I
He's
say
not a boxer
one?
himself, of course, not a promoter.
Can I
Sorry.
say one thing? Can I say one thing? My future
Yes.
fighter,
Yes.
he's from Ghana. He's 16 years old. 2010 United
Okay.
States champion last week. He won last weekend. And God
Yes.
bless him.
Joseph. Yes.
Joseph Jojo,
Yes.
yes. I believe him. I
Yes.
believe his family, and he's one from the best kids I ever seen. No matter what kind of religion he believed, I never asked him about his religion. And what we have to believe, whatever believe, but just be fair from each,
Yes.
sit together and live with each other, and don't steal in somebody's land or his house. I don't want to go steal in somebody's house or somebody's land.
Thank you.
I tell them this is the future. This
Thank
is
you.
our land. This is.
Wasfi, that
Thank you,
that's
God.
thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
God bless
I
you
wanted
all,
our
guys.
listeners to. You're welcome. I wanted our listeners to know more about you and the work you're doing in Chicago, and how you've been involved over the years with great people and great leaders. So thank you so much, Wafsi. Pastor Brandon, so 30 seconds for you. I know what to do when you go past your 30 seconds.
First time I engaged an Arab and an Israeli about the conversation of the conflict in the Middle East. Both of them was amicable. Both of them were desiring to be conciliatory in the conversation of land for peace, and they wanted all together to live together in the land. In a time of prayer, I asked the Lord, what's the solution? He didn't answer me right away, but he gave me a challenge that I want to give to us. He said, go home and learn to live together in God-ordained relationships as husband and wife, black and white, rich, poor, Christian, Pentecostal, Baptist, AME. And if you do learn to live together in these, mutually exclusive types of relationships, he said, you will come to the answer and the wisdom for peace in the Middle East for all of these relationships, husband, wife, black, white, rich, poor, Pentecost, Baptist, are the forerunner for wisdom for peace between Arab, Israeli, Arab, Palestinian, Jew, and it is the light that will shine in the nations for peace in the earth. And so I encourage us, thank you for joining these different voices, these different perspectives together, and developing this conversation and developing the thought behind the conversation. And thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, Pastor Brandon, and we will get Christina's closing remarks.
Again, thank you so much, Sana, for what you do, and to all of the guests that you had to engage in this conversation. I just want to continue to encourage leaders to have these conversations, bring friends to the table, bring um, people of uh, people of different opinion to the table who can have open conversation and dialogue. One of my friends texted me as we were talking, and she said, "Oh, this is making my blood boil." And oftentimes in these conversations, many people in the room's blood is boiling, but it won't be. It's through
Yes.
conversation that we gain understanding. And so I just want to encourage people to have the conversations.
Mm.
If we can be of assistance in that and help to create those dialogues or bring people and experts to your conversations, I'd be happy to help with that. And Sana, again, thank you so much for all that you're doing um, to create dialogue in these important topics. And thank you, Prince, for staying up so
Well,
late.
thank you. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you, Prince.
Thank you, Prince Asiel.
Thank you all for having
Absolutely.
invited me.
I want to
Yes.
visit you when I come
It's
to Israel
actually
the next
it's
time.
actually 4 a.m. here.
Oh my goodness.
No, thank you
I didn't hear
all.
the
We want to
comment.
put up the flyer again. This is um we want to okay, so we have a comment here that is unwarranted, so we would take care of this. Now it's so the conversation here, the Shiloh conversation here is Israel and the Black Church, Israel and the Black Church, and so we're encouraging you all to mark this one, put it on your calendar. We're talking February 1st and 2nd. More information will be coming on this. Further details, watch out for further details on Progressive Minds social media pages. You can also go on the website of the Shiloh Institute to learn more about what Shiloh Institute is all about, the work it's done, and the work that you're trying to do. And of course, you'll be seeing an update of the coming event or the coming conversation, which is Israel and the Black Church, which is going to take place at the Christian Family Center in the Chicagoland, headed by Pastor Steve Muncie. Pastor Steve Muncie himself will be part of this very critical discussion. And so please mark your day, mark the calendar, and come and be part of this crucial dialogue. Um, so Emma just says, "Oh, I'm late. I will watch it later." Okay, Emma, Ella, thank you so much for joining in. We have a few folks joining in and sharing their comments, but please bear with us. We're not able to read your comments, nor even give time for folks to ring in and contribute to it because we have just had so much to discuss this evening. And as you can imagine, for a great and for a huge conversation such as what is going on in Gaza. And so thank you all for joining in. For those who chimed in with Gaza no peace, I hope that I hope that you have gotten something from it and you would go on your knees every night and pray for the peace of Gaza, for the peace of Jerusalem, and the people that are suffering as a result of this war. We need peace, and we need this war to come to an end. Nobody wants to see people die, and nobody wants to see people suffer. So we can only say that on next week Tuesday we'll be having another important conversation here regarding African immigrants and some of the issues that they're going through, some of the challenges that they're having, whether they're traveling from Mexico through Brazil all the way to the United States. It's a lot of challenges. And we'll be talking about the war in Congo on this particular platform. So stay tuned with the Progressive Minds. We are 501c. We encourage you to support us in donation, which you can also use to file your taxes. We are the producers of the exchange ceremony, which is using a cultural exchange expo in promoting the restoration of African American royalty. Stay tuned for more of that. On that note, I would like to thank my guest again, Pastor Brondon Mathis, Prince Asiel Yehuda, all the way in Ashkelon. Thank you so much for making the time again. My brother Wasfi here in Chicago, a great guy. And then Christina King, the founder of Shiloh Institute. Thank you all for making this show. And to our guests, once again, thank you. Remember, to whom much is given, much is required. I, being your host this evening, Sana, aka Alinko, we shall be here next week, Tuesday. Keep praying, keep believing, and we know that God would answer our prayers. Have a wonderful evening. See you soon. Bye bye.